Amara dragged her tired feet along the dusty roadside, her uniform still smelling of fryer oil and sweat. It had been another long shift, another day where every coin felt like it came from fighting through the world. She hugged her backpack to her chest, trying not to think about the bus fare she didn't have, or the dinner she probably wouldn't eat tonight. She just wanted to get home before the sun disappeared. But halfway down the narrow street, she heard sharp laughter, cruel, loud, and echoing. Amara stopped. Her heartbeat picked up as she saw a group of boys circling an older blind man. They were tossing pebbles at him, kicking his stick, and laughing like it was a game. The man stood still, his hands shaking, trying to protect his face. His white cane lay on the ground beside him, snapped in the middle. Amara felt the familiar burn in her chest, the one that came from watching unfair things happen while knowing people like her had no power. She looked around, hoping someone else would step in. No one did. Cars passed. Adults walked by. Everyone pretended not to see. "Leave him alone!" Amara yelled, surprising even herself. The boys froze for a second, then burst into louder laughter. "Look who's talking!" one shouted. "Go home, you broke girl!" Amara swallowed hard. The insult stung, but the man's fear hit her harder. She stepped forward anyway. "Pick up his cane," she said, her voice shaking but steady. "Now." The biggest boy scoffed, but something in her eyes, tired, angry, and fed up with everything, made him pause. One by one, the boys backed away, muttering under their breath before running off. When they were gone, the street suddenly felt too quiet. Amara exhaled and bent down to pick up the broken cane. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked softly. The blind man lifted his face slightly. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Thank you, my dear. Not many people stop." Amara brushed dirt off the cane and handed it to him gently. "I'm sorry they did this to you," she said. He smiled a little, like he was used to pain, but still grateful. "You have a brave heart." Amara blinked, caught off guard. People rarely said nice things to her, especially about her. "I should walk you a bit," she said, "at least until you reach the next street." He nodded, and they walked slowly together. Amara kept glancing at him, wondering why someone dressed so simply had an air of confidence that didn't match his rough look. But she pushed the thought away. She had her own problems. At the corner, he thanked her again. His voice held something she couldn't place. Warmth, yes, but also mystery. Amara gave a small nod and turned to leave, her steps heavy, but her heart strangely lighter. She didn't know this moment would change her life. She didn't know the man she just defended was worth more money than she had ever imagined. She simply walked away, unaware of the world she had just stepped into. Amara had always carried the weight of life on her small shoulders. She lost her parents when she was only 12, after a short illness took both of them months apart. Since then, she had lived with her aunt, a woman who believed struggle built character and comfort made people lazy. The house was clean, strict, and always filled with rules she never asked for. Amara learned early that silence kept the peace, so she kept her dreams tucked quietly inside her chest. Every morning she woke up before sunrise, rushing between two part-time jobs, one at a small fast food place, the other cleaning offices at night. She was only 19, but life had pushed her to grow up faster than she wanted. She dreamed of college, of her own apartment, of a life where she didn't count every coin before buying bread. But dreams were slow, and reality was loud. At work, she dealt with Folklore, a co-worker who smiled too easily and hated too quietly. Folklore envied how customers liked Amara's calm nature. She envied how the manager trusted her, and she especially hated the way Amara stayed graceful even when tired. Folklore wanted attention, and Amara became the easiest target. A missing receipt here, a whispered rumor there, small things that chipped away at Amara's peace. Her only real comfort came from Sade, her best friend since childhood. Sade understood things without Amara explaining them. She always checked on her, always pushed her to speak her truth, even when Amara didn't want to. Their friendship was the one place Amara could breathe without fear of being judged. But lately, even Said noticed how life seemed to press harder on Amara. The bills, the long hours, the way people looked down on her because she was poor. Everything felt heavier each day. Amara wanted respect. She wanted a future. She wanted to be seen as more than the girl who worked too much and earned too little. And now, there was the blind man, Mr. Ease. She couldn't stop thinking about him after the incident. There was something different about him. He spoke gently, but with a strange confidence. His clothes were simple, yet his posture felt strong. Even the way he smiled felt like he knew things she didn't. It bothered her in a quiet way, like a puzzle she didn't know she was solving. She didn't know who he was, or why their short meeting stayed in her mind, but she felt something shifting, something she couldn't name yet. All she knew was that the world seemed to be pushing her down and pulling her forward at the same time. She wanted a way out of the life she had, a way to rise above everything that tried to break her spirit. But life had its own plans, and some of those plans were waiting just around the corner, ready to test her heart, her strength, and her belief in herself. The trouble started early the next morning, before Amara even had the chance to catch her breath from the long night before. She walked into the fast food shop, tying her apron as usual, when she noticed the manager standing by the counter with a serious look on his face. Folklore stood beside him, pretending to look worried, but her eyes were shining with something else. Satisfaction. "Amara," the manager said, "we need to talk." Her heart dropped. "Is something wrong?" He held up a small envelope. "Someone stole money from the cash drop last night, and your name is on the log as the last person who handled it." Amara froze. Her hands grew cold. "Sir, I didn't take anything. I counted it right in front of you." Folklore stepped forward. "Maybe you forgot something. You looked stressed yesterday." Amara stared at her, realizing instantly what was happening. Folklore's voice was soft, but her eyes were sharp, almost daring her to fight back. Amara felt the anger rising in her chest, but she pushed it down. Fighting wouldn't help, and even worse, she had no proof of her innocence. The manager sighed. "Until we figure this out, I need you to step away." Those words felt like a punch. Losing this job meant losing food, rent, everything. She walked out slowly, her legs shaking. Outside, she stopped on the sidewalk, biting her lip hard to keep from crying. Life was already hard. Why did it keep getting harder? As she wiped her eyes, loud voices echoed from across the street. "No, not again," she whispered. A group of older boys were surrounding Mr. Ease, the same blind man she had helped. This time they were rougher, shoving him and laughing loudly. His cane dropped again, rolling on the ground. Without thinking, Amara ran toward them. "Stop it! Leave him alone!" One boy pushed her shoulder. "Mind your business." But Amara stood firm. "Touch him again, and I'll scream so loud the whole street will hear." Maybe it was the fire in her voice, or the fact that people had begun to look their way, but the boys finally scattered, annoyed. Amara helped Mr. Ez stand straight, brushing dirt off his sleeve. "Are you hurt?" "No," he said softly. "But you sound troubled today." His words surprised her. "It's nothing, sir. Just a bad morning." He reached into his pocket slowly and held out a small card. She hesitated before taking it. The card was simple, with only an address and a handwritten line. "Thank you for your kindness. Come if you ever need help." Before she could ask him what it meant, he turned and walked away with calm, steady steps, as if he could see more than anyone realized. Amara stared at the card, her fingers trembling. She desperately needed help, but could she trust a stranger? Especially now, when her whole life was falling apart. She slipped the card into her pocket, torn between her own survival and the strange connection she felt to him. She didn't know it yet, But this single moment, this choice, was about to pull her into a world she never imagined she would enter. Amara waited 2 days before visiting the address on the card. She told herself she wasn't going, that she didn't need help from a stranger, but the truth was she was out of options. With her job on hold and her aunt already questioning why money was short, she felt like she was drowning. When she reached the address, she stopped walking. The house was huge, tall gates, trimmed lawns, and a driveway so long she couldn't even see the end. For a second, she thought she had read it wrong. There was no way a blind man she met on the street lived here. She told herself it was probably a charity home or a shelter he visited for treatment. She pressed the doorbell. A uniformed guard opened the gate halfway. "Yes? What do you want?" His tone was sharp, suspicious. I was told to come here," Amara said, holding out the card. He looked at her from head to toe, his eyes cold. "And why would someone from this house invite you?" She felt the sting of judgment immediately. "Please, sir, I just want to speak to him." After a long pause, he let her in, but kept watching her like she might steal something. Inside, 2 women whispered to each other as Amara walked past. "Who is she?" "Probably here for money. These girls always appear when they smell wealth." Amara's face heated with embarrassment. She kept her eyes down, wishing she could disappear. A few minutes later, Mr. Easy's housekeeper came out. "He's resting. You'll have to come another time." Her voice was polite but distant, like she didn't trust Amara either. Amara nodded and left quickly, feeling smaller with each step. She didn't understand why the staff acted like she had bad intentions. She didn't even know who Mr. Ease really was. All she wanted was guidance, maybe even a job. The next day, things got worse at work. Folklore didn't stop at framing her. Now she acted like she was the victim, crying to co-workers, claiming Amara blamed her out of jealousy. People began avoiding Amara, giving her strange looks, whispering behind her back. Someone even removed her apron from her locker and threw it on the dirty floor. Humiliation wrapped around her like a heavy coat she couldn't take off. By evening, her frustration had built up so much she called Said to talk. But even Said sounded worried in a different way. "Amara, maybe you should leave that blind man alone," Said said. "Rich people, if that's even what he is, come with problems. Focus on fixing your job situation first." "Said, he's not rich," Amara replied quickly. "His house must belong to someone else." But deep down, she remembered the guards, the whispers, the huge mansion, and the way Mr. Ease carried himself with quiet confidence. Still, she pushed the thought away. It didn't make sense. "Just be careful," Said said before hanging up, her tone uneasy. Amara sat alone on her bed that night, staring at the card again. Everything felt heavy, people doubting her, Folklore destroying her reputation, and the strange new world she had stepped into without meaning to. She didn't know who to trust. She didn't even trust herself anymore. But something inside her whispered that the story wasn't over yet. Everything fell apart on a Thursday morning, the one day Amara hoped things would get better. She walked into work, praying the manager had finally seen through Folklore's lies. But instead, she found him standing in the middle of the shop with her apron in his hand. "Amara," he said quietly, "we reviewed the cameras." Her heart lifted for a moment. Maybe the truth had come out. Then he continued. "The footage shows you near the cash drop before the money disappeared." Amara felt the ground shift. "Sir, I was only cleaning the counter. I didn't touch anything." Folklore stepped out from behind the kitchen door, arms crossed and wearing a fake, worried expression. "Maybe you forgot, Amara. You've been really stressed lately. People make mistakes." The manager shook his head. "I'm sorry. We can't keep you here." Just like that, she was fired. No chance to defend herself. No paycheck coming. No food. No transport money. Nothing. She walked out with tears burning her eyes, her whole world collapsing with every step. By evening, She couldn't breathe anymore. Everything inside her felt tight. Anger, shame, fear. And without knowing where else to go, she found herself walking toward the mansion again. At the gate, the guard frowned. "You again?" "I just want to see him," she whispered, her voice cracking. This time, he let her in without arguing. Maybe he could see she had nothing left. Inside, Mr. Ease was sitting in a quiet room, hands folded calmly in his lap. Amara stood before him, fighting the urge to break down completely. "Sir, I'm sorry if I caused any trouble by coming here," she said. "I just wanted to thank you for being kind to me. You don't owe me anything. Her voice broke. "I've had the worst day." Mr. Ease lifted his face slightly, listening closely. Then, in a gentle voice, he said, "Amara, do you know why I gave you that card?" She shook her head. "Because kindness without reward is rare," he said, "and I wanted to know who you truly were." Before she could answer, the door opened. 2 men walked in carrying a tablet, showing camera footage from her workplace. Angles she had never seen before. Clear angles. Angles that proved her innocence. Amara stared at the screen, shocked. How did you get this?" Mr. Ease smiled softly. "It's easy when you own the security company that installed the cameras." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He took a slow breath. "Amara, I am not a beggar. I am not even close. I own this home, several companies and more properties than I can count. I chose to walk the streets quietly to find people with real hearts." Her mouth fell open. A billionaire, disguised as a blind beggar. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because your heart stayed good even when your life wasn't." Before she could speak, he motioned the men forward. "Bring her." They escorted Fola into the room. She looked terrified. "What is going on?" Fola cried. Mr. Ease's voice turned firm. "You framed an innocent girl. You tried to destroy her reputation, and now everyone will know the truth." The footage played. Fola's lies unfolded in front of her. She fell to her knees, begging, but no one listened. Amara watched, shaking, not from fear, but from release. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen, heard, believed. Mr. Ease turned to her. "You are worth more than the world ever gave you credit for." And in that moment, Amara finally believed it. Amara's life began to change slowly, not like a sudden miracle, but like a sunrise, soft, steady, and bright in a way she had never felt before. After the truth came out, Mr. Ease invited her to work with him, not out of pity, but because he saw something in her that she never saw in herself. "We're starting a project to support poor families and street children," he said. "I want you to help lead it." Amara almost laughed at first. "Sir, me? I don't have a degree. I've never even worked in an office." "You have something more important," he replied. "You understand pain, you understand people, and you care. That is enough." And so she started, nervous at first, but determined to do well. She learned quickly how to manage documents, how to speak in meetings, how to organize outreach programs. Every day felt like she was stepping into a new version of herself. People respected her. They listened to her ideas. They trusted her. For the first time in her life, Amara woke up excited to work. Her income changed too. Not millions, but enough to pay her bills, buy decent clothes, and send a little money home without fear. Her aunt looked at her with new eyes, not seeing a burden anymore, but a young woman growing stronger. Even the neighbors who once judged her started greeting her with smiles, their tone different now, gentler, more respectful. But through everything, Amara stayed humble. She never forgot the nights she slept hungry, or the days she walked to work because she couldn't afford transport. When she saw people struggling, she saw herself in them. That made her work harder. Meanwhile, Fowler faced the consequences of her actions. The footage Mr. Ease showed didn't just clear Amara, it exposed everything Fowler had done. She lost her job, her reputation, and the fake confidence she used to hide behind. One afternoon, she came to find Amara, tears running down her face. "I'm sorry," Fowler said quietly. "I was jealous. You were always calm, always better than me without trying. I wanted to ruin that." Amara looked at her for a long moment. Part of her wanted to stay angry, but another part, the bigger part, understood that hurt people hurt others. "I forgive you," Amara said softly, "but I won't forget what you did." Fowler nodded, ashamed, and walked away. It wasn't a happy ending for her, but it was the truth she had to face. As weeks turned into months, Amara's confidence grew. She started leading small teams, planning charity drives, and even speaking at events. People who once overlooked her now asked for her guidance. She still felt nervous sometimes, but she pushed through it, remembering the girl who stood up to bullies even when she was scared. One day, after a successful outreach event, Mr. Ease sat beside her on a bench outside the community center. "You've changed," he said. Amara smiled. "I just finally feel like I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be." "You didn't become her," he corrected gently. "You uncovered her. She was there all along." His words stayed with her, because deep inside, she knew he was right. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was building a life, one filled with purpose, strength, and dignity. A life she had earned through kindness, courage, and resilience. And though she still had moments of doubt, she no longer let fear control her. She had walked through humiliation, betrayal, and poverty, and she came out standing taller. Amara wasn't the poor girl people pitied anymore. She had become a woman people admired, respected for her heart, her strength, and her unshakable spirit. Amara walked through her old neighborhood one cool evening, the sky turning orange as the sun slowly lowered itself behind the rooftops. The streets looked the same as before, narrow, noisy, and full of the tired energy of people just trying to survive. But somehow, everything felt different to her now. Maybe it was because she wasn't walking with fear anymore. Maybe it was because she finally believed she belonged in a better life. As she moved past the corner shop, she saw a small boy sitting alone on the steps. His clothes were dusty, and he hugged his knees tightly like he was trying to protect himself from the world. Two older boys stood a few feet away, laughing at him, kicking at the empty plastic bottle near his feet. Amara stopped. The scene hit her heart like a memory she had lived before. It felt exactly like the day she first met Mr. Ease, the day she stood up for someone who couldn't stand up for himself, the day that silently changed everything. She walked toward them calmly. "Hey," she said to the boys, "leave him alone." They looked at her, annoyed, but paused when they saw her steady expression. Her confidence made them uncomfortable, and after a moment of muttering, they walked away. Amara crouched beside the young boy. "Are you okay?" He nodded, but his eyes were wet. "They always do that," he whispered. She smiled gently. "I used to be scared too, but you'll grow stronger. And until then, you're not alone." She helped him stand and handed him a small snack she had bought earlier. The boy's face lit up with gratitude, the kind she once received from a blind man who wasn't blind at all. As she continued walking, her mind drifted back to everything that had happened. Her struggles, the betrayals, the mornings she cried quietly while walking to work, the days she felt invisible, and then the moments that saved her. Speaking up for someone weaker, trusting her own kindness, choosing courage when fear tried to swallow her. Those small choices changed her future more than she ever realized. She reached a quiet spot near the playground and sat on a bench, letting the breeze brush against her skin. She thought of Mr. Ease, how he saw her worth before she saw it herself, how he taught her that kindness wasn't weakness, and that good hearts can rise even when buried under poverty and pain. Her journey wasn't perfect, it wasn't magical. It was messy, hard, and full of moments where she wanted to give up. But she didn't. And that made all the difference. Amara closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. For the first time in years, she felt a peaceful kind of strength, the kind that comes from surviving storms and learning you can build your own sunlight afterward. She opened her eyes, watching the children play, their laughter filling the air. The world still had problems, still had cruelty, still had people like Folklore and the Bullies. But it also had people like her, people willing to protect, to care, to stand up even when their own life was heavy. And that gave her hope. She stood up, ready to return to the life she had built, one filled with purpose and possibility. As she walked away, she felt something warm settle inside her. She wasn't afraid of the future anymore, because she finally knew her worth. And she knew that even the smallest act of courage could open a door she never knew existed. Her story wasn't ending. It was just beginning.